more minutes, and that will represent 3 to 5 minutes max that you should spend on this. One more minute, at which time I will take up those of you who think you got it. And if you know you don't got it, that's fine. I'm going to put it on the board. You're turning it in for the competition. I'm going to grade every single one of them right now, but I'll take it. If you know you don't got it, go ahead and keep it, because I'm about to show it to you. More important that you get it.
All right, I'm done.
20 seconds. Turning it in for the competition. I'll take it. All right, if you're turning it in, I'm not grading everything. I'm not even spot grading them. If you want to turn it in, I'll take it. If you know you don't have it, just go ahead and hang on. I'm about to put it on the board. Yes. Hope your name's on it, by the way. All right, here's what it is. Here's what it is. If you turned your page in, follow along, make sure you got it. If you didn't turn your page in because you know you didn't got it, that's fine, right along with me. I'll take a glance at all these. Here we go. Unit 1, what is it? What's the pull out?
American Revolution.
Man, it's hard to write the thing. 2, abbreviating. Colonies and Constitution, M Rev. Good. Unit 2, what is it?
First vice president, first vice presidents.
What's pulled out?
Civil War.
Unit 3, a little trickier. What is it?
Teddy Roosevelt, reform, and imperialism. I put Gilded Age in there too.
That's what I read.
I'll hear that. I won't take off for that. That's a plus. Unit 4, what is it?
World War I. Great War II. Great
So the world at war, but you got to peel it back. World War I, Great Depression, World War II, and then Unit 5, we just came through it. What is it?
Cold War to modern era.
Pull out is?
Civil rights.
Yes, you cannot forget that important pullout. That's a pretty major chunk that is in the middle of that. And then amendments, what do I have?
1344, free citizens vote.
Yep.
And no alcohol and women's rights.
Free citizens vote, no alcohol, women's rights. Women get the right to vote. I didn't write these words because I'm abbreviating fast. So that is the brain dump. There's some abbreviations on there because I'm in class and I'm rolling. But if you did that, it's in your brain. I am just asking you, probably begging you. I'm not going to get on my hands and knees. But I'm asking you, don't neglect to do that on the test. Don't receive a blank sheet of paper and then be like, now I'm above that. Start your exam. Take 3 to 5 and dump your brain onto a sheet of paper. It will help you out. It will help you out. Okay, so that is that. Now we got to flow into today's class. If you saw the book, it was still on the screen. That is still there. It is still an open. It is still an open competition, and yes, in the vein of what we've been doing, and it has been working. You're going to teach me this class. Caveat: it is not going to be the same voices exclusively that we've been hearing. I appreciate the volunteerism, but I am going to spin the wheel. We're going to have 4 teachers at a time. Okay, that doesn't mean everyone has to be the voice. You can kind of chime in with each other, stick, clicker, pointing, all that kind of stuff. Put you on the spot a little bit. This is the most recent information. I know that you've got this information. I really believe you've got this information. So, that said, you won't be up for the whole time. I'm going to fire you halfway through and replace you with others. So, let's find out who our first instructors are. Who is it?
Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Landon. Happy birthday to you. And while you were sleeping, Macy got picked to be our first instructor. Macy, come on up. Go with 4. That was a sneak attack. That was a sneak attack on happy birthday. Little G, let's go. Macy, Garrett, come on up.
Me neither.
Don't see me.
Y'all learning a lot, buddy.
Y'all are getting some real Bacon County education right here.
Oh, great.
You kill us with too.
You're gonna find out you know more than you realize. All right, and Chrissy, that's the 4 of you. We'll be replacing you after a few slides. Everybody's gonna get up and on the back.
Okay.
All the other
Nice to hear. There you have it. All right, follow along on your notes. Here we go.
What day is it?
Cold War.
You tired of looking at those Cold War presidents? You got it? You got them in your brain? All right. Tell me more about the Cold War.
The Cold War is a period of tension between the U.S. and the USSR, or Russia.
You can read off the board, can't you?
I sure can. Where I was knowledge.
When was it, Garrett?
From 1946 to 1991.
That's after World War II.
He said when.
That's a win. After World War II. What did it include?
The nuclear arms race, the space race, and the Korean and Vietnam War.
Wow. All right, let's find out more about each of those.
This is NATO, which is the countries who are fighting against communism. And then you got the Warsaw Pact, communist countries.
Good. So go back one, Macy. This is the split of the world. All right, the blue and the red map I know we looked at. I'm not sure I put up the words NATO and Warsaw Pact. So let me elaborate. Let me make sure that's clear. America and what we are a part of is NATO. That's a word that still gets used a lot today. That organization still exists today. The Warsaw Pact is all things related to the Soviet Union and the countries that are in favor of communism. So the split on this map here is blue and red. Red, of course, is always associated with what?
Communism.
There you go. I don't want you to get to the exam and maybe there's a chart that has comparisons of some sort and it lists Warsaw Pact and you're like, Warsaw Pact is synonymous with Soviet Union. So there you have it. Carry on, fellas.
The United States did not take a leadership or role in important affairs until after World War II.
After. What were we like before? Say it louder for the people in front. Yeah, before World War II, it was all about let's just take care of our own. But after World War II, there's a new change in attitude, and let's find out what it is.
President Truman recognized America's new responsibility to use its vast resources to combat the spread of communism. Overall, this will provide great security for the United States.
The Truman Doctrine. Now, sports guys and gals, I made a sports analogy. What is the Truman Doctrine in my sports analogy?
Lock the donut on the back.
Not that one.
Then what?
Footballers. At training camp, you're given a book. What kind of book?
Playbook.
Playbook. Truman Doctrine is the playbook.
Well,
What's
you said
inside
that
of?
from
Harrison's
class.
like, I play football. I play football. Harrison, what's inside of the playbook? There you go.
Oh
Doctrine
my
is
gosh.
I would have never called it. I would have never called it.
inside of the Truman Doctrine are various plays that we're going to talk about. So continue the whole slide.
There it is.
The U.S. wouldn't support any nation threatened by communism, or would support communism. I can't do it. With military and economic aid. The new United States foreign policy approach in 1947, the new precedent was set.
So all before then, who was it that said, do not get engaged in foreign entanglements?
Washington.
George Washington himself. So from George Washington until 1947, that's one of our long-standing attitudes. All of a sudden, Harry Truman decides to undo the whole George Washington thing. Now the world had changed. Okay, I'm not dogging on Harry Truman. The world situation had changed, and here now is a new precedent. Washington's words last for nearly 200 years, and now we have a new precedent set. Yeah. So
Instead of isolating itself, the United States began to take lead in containing the spread of communism. Truman called on the U.S. to support free peoples who are resisting attempt subjugation by armed minorities, that I don't have, or by outside pressures. Even though he didn't say it directly, everybody knew what he was talking about. So
all right, I put that quote in there because it is in the text. I haven't pulled many quotes and had it be like a wink, wink. I bet this will be on the test. If the test makers have decided that this is a key quote, I thought it was worth sharing with you. So if you get to that word subjugation, right, you're on the exam, you go ahead and know that it is associated with the Truman Doctrine. We talked about how you can look at a quote and not necessarily have to read the whole length of it to still, and you can still understand what it's going for, based on who the author is, based on what year it's from, all that kind of stuff. Fellas, you got a couple more slides and everybody's getting fired.
So, this is the virus of communism. England.
What do you guys know about a virus? We've all lived through a virus recently.
It spreads.
So what is it saying about communism by calling it a
It's
virus?
spread.
Okay. But if we've all learned something about a virus, you can do what to the spread of it?
We'll give it money.
You can stop the spread. And in terms of the COVID virus, we wear a mask, we isolate, we quarantine, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious, Jeff, how would you go about stopping the spread of communism?
So, do y'all know who is on this hot air balloon? Truman. Good job. So he was giving money to France and Germany and most of the non-communism countries, communist countries, to try and stop the spread of communism.
That's exactly right. Well done. Good analysis. All right, let's go ahead and clap them off. Good job, first four. Like I said, every last one of you is going to get a chance to be on the spot today. Four more coming at you. Yeah, Haven, I did rearrange it slightly the way I think it flows a little bit better. Not to say I'm better than the doctrine writer. Rashid, Austin. I thought for sure that was on the sheet. Austin, you're up. Go ahead and pass off the stick and the clicker.
Sam.
Sambo. Taylor. No, my teacher stand up.
Savannah.
Let's go! All right, fellas, ladies, and gents, pick it up with ye old Marshall Plan.
So the Marshall Plan, it was from 1948 to 1952, the United States Systems Program of Economic Aid for Relief. You can remember Marshall Plan for M for money.
And if you do your hands like I always do, you just won't forget it. Who did we give money to?
The Western Europe rebuilt after the war.
And who were they?
Non-communist.
Yeah, our friends. We gave money to our friends. So go ahead, next slide. Hey, heads up for me. Come on. We're pushing hard to the finish line here. This matters.
Marshall did offer in exchange for aid to the Soviet Union and its allies if they would make political reforms and accept certain outside control.
Oh, okay. Not surprisingly.
Was that
They did not agree to that. So he did offer the money to the Soviets, but obviously it came with strings, and they were not going to go for that.
You looking good, Austin?
Analyze my map.
So our biggest allies, like United Kingdom and France, got the most money out of everybody.
Yeah, so it wasn't 100% even distribution. It's not like they chopped up the pie evenly. We played some favorites, but regardless, money went out to all of our friends in some portion.
What was Germany was split on?
Ah, containment. I know we won't forget containment.
So containment.
There was a West Germany.
Oh,
Why was it split on?
So containment, the U.S. gave economic and military aid to stop the spread of communism. It aligns with the domino theory that communism would spread.
Describe that domino theory in your own words.
So if one country would become communist, and the surrounding countries, the little ones, would also become communist, and then it would be from there.
Yeah, we even had a guess as to how the countries would fall in order, and not surprisingly, Korea and Vietnam are up front. And I bet we're about to talk about them in some fashion as well.
How much you want to bet?
Liar.
So the United States policy using numerous strategies to prevent the spread of containment abroad.
One of the plays out of the playbook. Truman Doctrine is overarching, but inside of that is containment. No, go back.
I gotta look at this email.
I'll be here for Thursday,
Bajillion paragraphs.
probably Friday too.
Put in your own words, Sam.
It's not right.
All right, so Sam is remembering that once a country is stuck inside the Nalgene bottle, it's drenched with what? Communism. I thought you were going to say water, but it was communism. And we're not going to reach into the bottle and try to rescue them. That would be declaring war. That would make a mess. But we are going to draw the line. Go ahead to the next one now. Draw the line and prevent the spread going any farther. So let me hear a couple other speakers in this crowd.
You didn't say that to ours.
All right, describe the demonstration and why you're never going to forget what is containment, especially you all. Yeah, with what? Yeah, because communism is messy, right? And it spreads unless you do what to it?
Put a lid on it.
Put a lid on it. Next slide.
That was a good action shot.
Put a lid on it. Yeah, so if you put a lid on it, that is containment. Containment is the lid. Countries inside of communism, they are lost to communism. We feel sorry for them, but we're not going to go rescue them.
That's what's his name, and that's Miss Williams.
This is fourth block. Yeah, this is fourth block. All right. So next
I don't know
slide.
what his name is.
Containment is click the lid. Containment is the lid. All right. You guys got a couple more slides, so you get fired. You're fired there.
America basically became the global top.
Yeah, big contrast to what former idea? Yeah, big difference from staying at home. Now we are the world police. Team America World Police. Next. Go back.
Korean War. First, it was actually never a war because we never declared.
Ah, that's deep and important.
So the North supported communists while the South supported capitalism. Yes. And it was 3 years of fighting back and forth, and it's now to this day divided by the 38th parallel.
Yeah, so the countries started divided at the 38th parallel, and after 3 years of back, forth, the war ends in a stalemate at the 38th parallel. You might say, why was there fighting in the first place? Well, there was fighting in order to try to assert dominance, right? Each side believed they could win. But in the end, it arrived at a position where the 38th parallel was going to remain the divide. So you might say that the fighting wasn't worth it after all.
Containment in action. We put a containment on South Korea.
Yeah, that's right. Korea is, we got to put our money where our mouth is, right? We can't just talk about containment, say it's a policy that we have. Now we actually got to go prove it. If the North is invading the South and we've been speaking about containment, well, let's go prove what we believe. So this is containment in action. It's about to get broken up, right? It's routed over here. Yes, you should be here. I allow the flexible seating because sometimes it works, not today. I'll mess it up with that.
Anyway, so you can see the difference between a communist country and a capitalist country from space, seeing their different industry structure and industry.
That's right.
And this is a memorial that Mr. Swanson visited.
That's right. I give you all the pictures so that you can possibly remember things when they come up on a question. All right, snaps for these 4. And you're fired. 4 more. Here we go. You can see how I'm letting you go through about one chunk at a time. Everybody gets to play today.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
This chance.
I want to hear Chance talk, like out loud.
He talked.
Watch Landon be next. Watch Landon be next.
Kill.
Kill.
Yeah.
I feel like he would be a great teacher.
What's it on?
They'll take your mask.
As long as I'm one.
Please. Hey,
Rashid.
Okay, good.
Chance.
I wouldn't trust that teacher.
You rich. All right, y'all think you know what's coming next? We're still immersed in the Cold War. Tell me all about it.
It's not cold.
Practice of making accusations of disloyalty and treatment of those who work in the West Coast, usually accusing them of being communists or communist sympathizers.
I agree with what he said.
Mr. P.O. guy. You know that great voices we did.
What about the second Red Scare, Kel?
Witch hunt led by Senator Joseph McCarthy from 1950 to 1954. AKA the Red Scare, the second Red Scare.
What are we even talking about?
Who was he accusing and of what? Yeah, so he accused a lot of people of having communist sympathies or alliances. A lot of people in government. Also, a lot of people in another industry. What industry was that?
Hollywood.
Yeah, a lot of Hollywood people got accused of having communist sympathies. They got blacklisted. Today we might say the phrase canceled. And how many of these allegations really shook out as true?
Not me.
Not none, but not many. And it was largely regarded as a witch hunt, which has a connection to the Salem witch trials, right? That's a phrase that we've already learned about. The name McCarthyism comes from what?
James.
His
No,
name. Yeah,
Joseph.
I think it'd be a little more common sense to
Mary
call it
Magdalene.
something like, red hunting or something like that. But McCarthyism, even though there's not a connection to the word communism there, you got to associate it with this power-hungry senator and what he was doing. So, pretty big topic, but our standards don't give too much time to it, so we'll just move on as well.
Cuban Missile Crisis.
What about
Why don't you take me through the 5 W's? Who did it? Where were they? Why did it matter?
Wow.
Now.
Florida. Located in Florida. Just south of Florida.
And where?
In Cuba. In Cuba.
Yes.
It's not located in Florida.
I said it's in Cuba.
What was he here?
Huh? Cuban Missile Crisis.
What did Russia have there?
Who's the American leader during this time?
Kennedy.
Oh man, he's so good looking. What? How did he deal with the crisis?
Where's his Kennedy?
Hell,
Where is
it's
the
on the
United States
street, your
Senate?
street.
Hell, that is Kennedy.
Good looking man.
Like a 5-year-old.
Where did America put
Kennedy
it?
blockaded Cuban threats to invade it.
All right, so it was a period of time where both countries were posturing or peacocking, is a word we use. What was the potential impact?
Boom.
Go ahead and go to the next slide. Why was it notable that these missiles were placed in Cuba?
Because they had
The whole US.
They could hit anywhere almost. They could hit.
Yeah,
They could hit the
They can
whole.
hit everywhere.
Placing missiles in Cuba
Uh-oh.
now
They
gives
could
the
hit
Soviets range to the whole Western Hemisphere. Chandler has the connecting piece here. Chandler, what was the other side of the story?
We had missiles in Turkey.
We have missiles in Turkey. We minimize that in the telling of our own history, but hey, good for the goose, good for the gander. They were just playing one-upmanship. During this time frame, how did the president connect with the country? Bit of a rise of television and his ability to get a message out via television. And then next slide, round it out.
Ends with U.S. agreeing to remove missiles from Turkey, and USSR removes missiles from Cuba.
Excellent. All right, pass the stick to someone else. I think it's Blake's turn.
I got quicker. Just
Don't say stuff on
Howdy 5,000.
Vietnam War.
Vietnam.
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 Yeah, take me through the 5 W's. That's what good historians do.
Communist North versus Democratic South.
Also, the same setup as what else?
Korea.
We don't even have to rememorize
I know
anything.
y'all stuff.
North, communist, south, us.
Yes.
Viet Cong frustrates U.S. forces through use of guerrilla warfare tactics in the thick jungles.
All right, so the Viet Cong is the bad guys. That's the nickname for the communist forces. I don't have any pictures of, I showed you about 25 different pictures. But what were some of those guerrilla warfare tactics and strategies that really frustrated the Americans?
The traps.
They had booby traps, and what went underground?
Oh, the people
The tunnel
underground.
system.
They were really
Right,
small.
the tunnel system. And then,
Oh, they were really small.
what about American technology? Did it have a place in the jungle?
No.
No,
Well,
those tanks didn't.
Yes
They got stuck
and
in the
no.
mud.
Yeah, what was the no?
They got stuck in the mud.
Tanks, but what was the yes?
Airplanes.
Helicopters. Helicopters. So technology, kind of a yes and a no. But we found out that it was not the same as fighting in Europe, for sure. For sure. They say a lot of words in a day, guys. I miss some of them.
Yo, why you keep on me on
All right, let's hit that quicker.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Tell me how it all started.
Congress issued a Gulf response resolution which gave the president authorization to conduct military operations in Southeast Asia without a formal declaration of war.
All right, what's real notable about that?
That's really distracting.
Why don't you give me a click?
Give him a
What are we missing there?
Expiration date.
Oh, man. So wide open use of military forces for an unknown amount of time. And Anna Kate, what was the large impact?
Expanded president's power.
Expanded presidential powers. I feel like we've seen that before. I think your brain can start to draw connections. Lincoln expanded powers, Wilson expanded powers, now Johnson expanded his powers. Oh, 1968, a pretty landmark year in U.S. history. Take me through some things that happened in 1968.
I thought it was 1967.
January 1968 began the Tet Offensive.
What is that?
Vietnamese New Year celebration, the most important national holiday in Vietnam.
Oh, so we probably thought they wouldn't be interested in fighting, but we forgot that we came from a country that assaulted on Christmas night. Silly us.
Yeah, we're so crazy.
A coordinated series of North Vietnamese attacks on more than 100 cities and outposts in South Vietnam, which were televised for Americans to see. This decreased support of the war effort back home.
What was it that decreased support?
Television. Because
Yeah, why?
They saw they were losing.
Bro, what had our leaders been telling us up to this point?
We were winning.
Yeah, yay for us, America,
At the end,
dominant.
They didn't trust the government.
But you can't mess with images that come across the screen. And Harrison, say it again. Sorry.
They didn't trust the government.
So that leads to a mistrust of the government. If they're lying to us about one thing, what else could they be lying to us about?
Everything.
Yeah, next.
So this a picture. My guys just watching television, look like he got home from work, seeing this. So
What's on the TV?
It looks like someone got
We're getting
shot.
whooped.
this guy's getting shot. Pew pew.
They need to get fired.
Sound like?
They need to get fired right now.
The United States government had said that the war was near victory, but it became clear that it was not as well to end the in the area.
All right, lasting result. This last paragraph is important, even though it's lengthy, and you're going to read it word for word, I'm sure. It's important.
In the end, the Viet Cong were unable to drive the Americans out of Vietnam, but that offensive did lead many people in the U.S. to question why we were involved in Vietnam and whether they could trust their president and government.
Man, so Johnson's rubbing his head because he's just not even sure anybody likes him anymore. He's tired. He's not going to run for office again. Next.
Trying, guys.
All right, we're still in 1968, so I don't want you to feel like it's jumbled. I'm taking you through 1968.
April 1968, the assassination of the nonviolent civil rights activist, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
We're going to talk about him more, but you can mark 1968 as the time of his assassination.
One of the most chaotic elections in American history. President Johnson vacated the Democratic nomination 9 months before the election. This left Nixon and Robert F. Kennedy as the top two candidates in this election.
Until,
Kennedy dies.
click, boom, shakalaka.
Oh my.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yes.
He got bang bang.
That's right. Next slide.
Oh.
June of 68. So you see January, April, and June. These are big events in 1968. He was assassinated while campaigning for president. And this left the Democrat, pause right there. Go back one. This left the Democrat nomination open. The Democrats didn't have time to rally a new candidate and build up support for that candidate because most people had their affections behind RFK. Well, when they put a new old guy forward who was not as young, vibrant, and energetic as RFK, a lot of people didn't have the same energy for the Democrats. They end up voting for the Republican, Richard Nixon. This changes Hubert Humphrey. This changes the face of American politics because instead of having another Kennedy in office, we now have Richard Nixon and all that he is going to do. All right, you four right here. Snap form. You're fired. Let's go to the bathroom. We come back. We got more to do. I say you're fired. At Ranger School, you get fired from your patrol. Like patrol leader, you're fired. Go back to the squad. But it's good. It's a good thing. All right, fellas, come on. We got to walk to the bathroom. Not optional.
I could have been down.
What, Garrett? Trying to fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The handshake.
Oh my gosh.
God.
Yes.
Hey. Look at how
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's
Why you gotta get out of my lap?
she is on the team. Softball Megan is on the team.
Yeah.
Is she gonna
I
make it?
forgot about
Is she
her.
gonna make it? Softball Megan. Hey, it's softball Megan. She made it. I was like, she made it.
Hey, that's what my space do. That's because it is.
Everybody. Exactly.
Hey, I'll show
Riley, I think he'd help her watch winning. You know, Alfred having Riley came back now. Y'all deal with that.
Alright, hey, I sense the restlessness. It's probably because you're bored of the information. By being bored of the information, that means you got it. Good, that's good. It doesn't mean I'm
Let's
gonna
do
try
some
to-
fun.
Alright, I'm picking two teachers this time, not four. Here we go. Jack
We're not doing four teachers?
Annie.
What not say?
Perfect. Ladies, the clicker's right there, the pointer's right there. Teach me something about ye old civil rights movement. That's right. She's a one click.
Handler, she's there. Handler, do you want these nails?
Alright, hey, tune in. Here we go.
Okay, basically, Truman desegregated the armed forces and everybody was unified. Yeah.
So the desegregation of the military, why that's significant? Why is that under the civil rights movement?
Because it was the first thing.
Yeah, it was the first step, and it was all the way in the 40s towards full integration into American society
Yeah.
of African Americans. And I told you that if you want to know what's going to be happening in society in the next 10 to 15 years, pay attention to the military. The military is usually at the forefront of social change, good, bad, or indifferent. So it proves true here. Go back one. Proves true here that the desegregation of the military leads to desegregation of society at large. And this is one little nugget extra. I haven't done many of those. Colin Powell is a good representation of an African-American four-star general who never would have risen to that rank had the military not been desegregated in the first place.
Right.
This is Executive Order 9981. We don't memorize a lot of numbers. That is one of them. You got to know 9066, 9081. You got to distinguish between the two. Excellent. Carry on.
Okay, this is the 50th anniversary of the
You-
Executive Order. There's Mr. Swanson.
That's right.
Okay, the Jim Crow era. This was like separate people kind of thing.
That's right. This is a reminder. This is walking us back into civil rights.
It began after Reconstruction and state and local laws enforced racial segregation in the South. This included black codes, literacy tests, poll taxes, and education.
What was the literacy test?
This is all a reminder of what was in existence prior to the heart of the civil rights movement. So this is what African Americans are having to deal with. PFSE, what is that?
A court case.
The court case. Plessy
Separate
Ferguson,
but That ended segregation.
separate but equal. No, it enforced segregation.
Oh my God.
It was segregation. You sit in this train car, you sit in that train car. Equal, quoting fingers, because it never was. It was segregation. Plessy Ferguson was segregation. Now we'll roll into what overturned segregation.
Segregation.
Brown versus Board of Education. This was a 1954 Supreme Court decision, and it overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. It ended all segregation.
So you-
no more separate but equal.
So you gotta marry those two court cases, okay? It's not a government class. Coach McKenzie's gonna give you a whole lot more about the Supreme Court next year. But you gotta marry Plessy Ferguson and Brown and Board. One of them exists until the other one overturns it. Those two cases are always connected. I would guess that a question could be two parts related to each of those. What created segregation? What overturned segregation? Some type of a language in between there.
Martin Luther King Jr. He was a Baptist minister from Atlanta. He only did nonviolent protests and programs, and he led the Montgomery bus boycott, and he was
So the underlying word there, what's real notable about that?
Gandhi.
Yeah, non-violent. Hey, it's real easy to start throwing punches. It's real easy to throw rocks. It's real easy to shoot things. That's easy to do.
This is not easy to do.
Not easy to resist violence when violence is being thrust upon you.
Yes.
And his whole strategy was nonviolence. Does come from the legacy of Gandhi. I wouldn't expect you would see that written down.
But he was still in
And because, yeah, even amidst his nonviolence, he was arrested a variety of times. Chandler's crushing it up there.
You are crushing. Oh, yes. Very influential leader of the civil rights. He had speeches like I Have a Dream, which was his most famous, and Letter from Birmingham Jail, which is the letter he wrote in jail. And he was assassinated by a white supremacist.
In what year?
1968.
Formative year for United States history, 1968. Who's in the background of that picture? Yeah, the president. So he was working alongside the president on the variety of civil rights legislations.
Yes.
He wasn't just a dude out there trying to make his voice heard. He had the ear of the most powerful person in the country, the president. Question?
Can you tell me who that president is?
Johnson, the tired one that they thought that they was like anymore.
Exactly right. A little bit more
The
about
letter
his,
from Birmingham jail. He wrote it from jail.
no, go back. What do you remember about the letter from Birmingham jail? What was its main message?
I have absolutely nothing.
Okay, good. That's why we're talking about it. See?
Unless I get.
Yeah, so the heart of nonviolent, he was defending his strategy for sure. But clergy, which means pastors, these clergy in Birmingham, Alabama, were telling Martin Luther King Jr. to do what? Say it again. Wait. Just wait, man. Just wait. You're all this noise that you're making, even though you're not violent, you're still messing things up. Just wait. What was his response to that?
No.
He said the Negro has waited his whole existence. I'm tired of hearing wait. So I will not just wait. I will not just wait. I will do something. So that's an important part of the message there, is that he said we will keep our protest up. We will remain nonviolent, but we will keep our protest up. We will not just wait. So this is a written document, okay? It's a very formative essay. It's not a book. It's not very long at all. This is a written document. His other famous moment is a spoken
I have a
moment.
dream. And he had this whole speech planned out, and then he just started saying this one, and then everybody got excited.
That's your big theme, that second bullet point there.
Peace and racial harmony.
All right, that's not rocket science. That sounds pretty obvious. He's calling for peace and harmony.
And he gives support for rights.
So,
And then he showed the power of the nonviolent protest.
where was this gathering? Washington D.C., right? So the seat of government, that's significant. Who was in the crowd on that day?
Everybody.
What do you mean?
All different races.
Yeah, all types of people. It wasn't a black person movement. Okay? It wasn't an African American movement. It's a human movement. And of course, he's the face of the civil rights movement. He gives the keynote speech. But really important to note that this is not an African American movement. It's a people movement. And the more that photography and television cameras get involved, how does that start to influence the movement?
It spreads.
It spreads. And especially when the cameras capture negative things. What were some negative things?
Angry people and, yeah.
That's right. The variety of mistreatment. Dogs, fire hoses, beatings, stuff being dumped on them at countertops. When these cameras, whether pictures or video, were captured and spread, what were most people's reactions? They were angry about what was going on. Some people were too close to the situation to see clearly, those people who were doing the wrong. But for the rest of the country, they're like, the heck's going on in Alabama? What are they thinking? What are they doing? Yeah, hey, civil rights now. These jerks in Alabama, they got to be stopped. So photography and video really change the message, spreads the message, and encourages the message as well. Good, all of that.
Yes, there he is. Okay, Civil Rights Act of 1964.
This is the payoff for all the work.
So it was introduced by JFK. It prohibits discrimination based on race, religion, ethnicity, and gender. It outlawed the segregation in public facilities. And the new president, Lyndon B. Johnson, had to pass it because JFK died.
So Brown versus Board, go back. Brown versus Board prevented segregation where?
In schools.
Schools. Circle, so 10 more years, and now finally segregation is outlawed where?
Everywhere.
Where else? That's right. Carry on.
Okay, next slide. Voting Rights Act of 1965. Outlaw literacy tests for voting, so they don't have to take education tests anymore. And it increases African American voters because they don't have to take the literacy test. Okay. Do you want us to go over this?
No, you're fired. Two more.
Fired.
Yeah. Clap them off. Clap them off. No, two more. You want three?
Yes.
All right. Was two too tough, ladies? All right. Too boring. Mia. Underlay, mama, Mia. Oh.
It's gonna be.
Yeah. All that snap, birthday boy, you up? Hey, you need Marilyn Monroe to sing happy birthday to you? All right, we'll try three. Bad start. We have ourselves on John F. Kennedy. Let's see why he matters. Everybody matters. Okay, are y'all ready? Okay. JFK.
He was only president because of his good looks. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
His goal was to put the first man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. He was assassinated in Dallas, Texas.
In a what car?
An open convertible.
Why?
I mean, he was just dumb.
Now, Landon made a joke that he's only president because he looked good. But I'll hear that joke. Go ahead and explain it to me.
Well, they come out with the TVs and the debates. It was on TV, and it was the first one ever. So Nixon, he looked trash. He looked like he was very ugly and old and wrinkly. And then you got JFK. He looked very good. And
Would you say JFK looked very good?
yes,
Would you say that into my camera? JFK looked very good?
he looked very good.
Y'all are so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So back to television and cameras. All of a sudden, it's not just your written words. All of a sudden, it's not just your spoken word. All of a sudden, it's about how you look.
Yep.
And obviously, that changes the face of politics and campaigning forever.
Continue.
There
There you go.
Oh, wow. Say a little bit more.
All right, so television, they changed the world. They changed how people look at African Americans, war, politics, everything.
I hope you grab a theme here. We have talked about television and images in several different ways. So we talked about, go back. We talked about politicians campaigning. We just talked about how it changed the civil rights movement. And we talked about how it changed the Vietnam War. So as technology advances, it becomes more transparent. The world becomes more transparent. You can't hide stuff anymore because these images come straight into our living rooms. So major theme, this particular slide could have gone in a bunch of different locations. Major theme is how television changed the shape of American culture. Continue.
All right, so then November 22nd, 1963, he was assassinated, and Lyndon B. Johnson was become
Man, what a bright star. Cut short. But, read that last statement.
Even though the president was killed, the U.S. government would live on.
So as interested as it can be to get into the maybe conspiracy theory of the assassination, the real take is that the government didn't die with one man. There is a continuity plan. The vice president was sworn in almost immediately. So in terms of the
No, it
exam,
was immediately. Still had her dress on.
in terms of the exam, they're not going to ask about any of the juicy details about the video, the car, the shooters. They may well ask about what is the significance of the assassination of President Kennedy. The answer is that the government lives on even though the man died. I think that's notable. Powerful quote from JFK. Apply it to your life. What's he say?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
That's deep. That's deep. Chew on that one.
That hits different.
All right, Lyndon B. Johnson.
Oh, God.
It's the same thing.
No.
Stupid. All right, so he was JFK's vice president whenever JFK died. He served during the Vietnam War. And he decided not to run in the election because he was retired. Civil Rights Act of 1964.
We kind of already said it. Go ahead.
Yep.
Next.
Next.
Great Society. Let's talk about it.
All right. So President Johnson had many programs that aimed to end poverty and get Americans a great standard of living. It funded schools.
So who did he want to help? Thematically, who did he want to help? No, it's not this one. Yeah, poor people. Those with lower income, those with less access to public education, those with less access to medical. He wants our society to be great. How are you great? You take care of the lower reaches. This is Johnson's idea. But, next slide. Programs cost what? Money. Where's money come from? Taxes. Taxes, right? So you got to decide. Do we want to have all these programs that the government is in charge of? Or, hey, I'm going to donate to my local church. I'm going to take care of someone because I want to. That's the debate in life. Do we want our government to run programs, or are we going to help each other, because we want to? That is the criticism of Johnson's Great Society. I thought I could explain that a little bit.
This guy.
What about him?
Chavez. So he formed the
What type of people did he support?
Immigrant farmers.
Immigrant farm workers. Farm workers, right? Not exactly the landowners, but those who did what on the land.
He wanted to
generally the crop pickers.
better pay.
State, what region of the country? California. What do they grow in California? Grapes. Yeah, grapes. So grapes were being, in order to get better pay and better working conditions, what type of a protest did he organize? Non-violent one, yeah, but against what crops?
What?
Grapes. I already said it. Go ahead, go to the next slide. Grapes. A lot of people in the world, a lot of people in the country did not know that grapes were being picked under pretty harsh circumstances. The pickers were not being treated well or paid well. Cesar Chavez, through nonviolent protest, brings attention to that issue. And once attention is brought to the issue, the grape growers have to do the right thing, come to the negotiation table, and actually pay their workers a fair wage, give them fair working hours. So consider him to be the Hispanic Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, that's the connection you need to make. Nonviolent, peaceful protest in order to bring about change. Just in this case, it's not for African Americans, it's for migrant farm workers. Good. Next. Oh, highways. Why do they matter? We do drive on them. Who originated the
President.
Okay, and
White.
Wanted the
the
fund.
military application.
Instructions.
Not road tripping to Las Vegas. All right, that might be a nice extra. But he realized we needed to be able to move our military around the world, around the country, faster than we currently could. So this is not an effort that happened overnight. Not at all. 42,000 miles of highway don't get paved overnight. But Eisenhower starts the process of getting these miles funded. And so if highways are now the main avenue of approach in the country, what is it replacing? What was it?
Railroad.
Trains. Yeah, that's right. So make that connection. Highway is now trumping trains, just like television is now trumping radio. Everything is progress. Next slide. This is what the interstate systems look like, and they continue to grow to this day. Has anybody seen one of those blue signs since I mentioned it to you?
No.
Go back one. Go back
I've been
one.
on the interstate like 3 times.
You've looked and you haven't seen them? I would guess that you're looking for a short amount of time and then you're not paying attention when you actually pass one. They're there about every 10 miles. Okay, I can't say the exact frequency, but they are there. I was just curious if any of y'all have seen them. I appreciate that you kind of thought about it next time when you're on the highway. All right, next slide. Good, you're fired. Clap them off. Clap them off. Man, I know some of y'all are coming up. I know who hasn't been picked yet. Landon, all right job. That was an all right job.
No, you two.
You're starting
Hey, Gage is a disciplinarian.
Oh, get that off.
Gage likes to shut people down just like I do. Because he's even more serious.
Chelsea.
Don't get so excited. You're the one making this.
I'm so
That's right. Let's go. Let's go. All right, we got a good stretch coming up.
Let's go.
Be the voice.
Boy.
Chelsea.
I was the voice.
Where do I do my favorite? Hey, everybody going?
I like that.
I'm cold.
Do one more person.
Cold.
Hey, we gotta do one more person. Yeah, do one more person.
Chelsea. Chelsea was number 3.
I don't think it wasn't Chelsea. I don't think it was.
Yeah, we might.
Do another person. I don't think Chelsea wants to. Chelsea doesn't want to. Just read it. Chelsea. Do one more. It makes her we are not done.
Jacqueline.
Let's go, Jack.
That's the first time she's got a do another.
Do one more.
One more. No.
Hey, way too fast, way too fast. Go back. Space race. Space race. This is a part of the Cold War, but guess what? We're not shooting at each other. What are we doing?
We're trying to get the moon.
We're still on
I like shooting
Unit
at the moon. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a competition between the two powers, but who does it benefit?
Everybody.
Right? Everybody grows because of this. Continue.
Okay, next. Go. Alright, Sputnik. What was Sputnik? Yes, from what country?
Soviet
Union. Good job. It is the same.
It was it influenced the creation of NASA, and it inspired the development of new technology.
It also
Increased fear of a missile attack by the Soviets against the U.S. It led to President Eisenhower passing policies against the Soviet Union.
how does Sputnik affect you today?
It doesn't.
Not
Yeah,
really.
it has nothing
to do with
me. Yeah,
Hey.
class of science and math.
That's right. This time period, the 50s, and I know it's been a long 70 years since then, but we started an increased focus on secondary school level science, math, and technology. So your education today is directly influenced by Sputnik 1, which was in orbit in the 1950s. Good. So that's a round out there. We actually,
Hallelujah.
we actually don't even talk about the moon landing in our standards. You guys understand it pretty well, but I'm not going to review it here because it's not in our standards. I think I got 3 questions coming at you, so go ahead and talk me through them. This is what
Okay,
you got.
got this.
Yeah.
All right, war on poverty, improve medical treatment for the poor, affirmative actions for plans for employers, civil rights law. All of these were a part of what vision for America?
A, the
John.
Truman Doctrine. B, Roosevelt's New Deal. C, Johnson's Great Society. And D, the Harlem Renaissance.
Okay, what was
Go
the
ahead and
Truman
mark
Doctrine?
out the Harlem Renaissance.
Okay, why?
Okay,
Because it's not.
Mark.
They said nothing about music.
Good.
Yeah.
Good job. Okay, what about the Truman Doctrine?
Yeah, that's a whole different unit.
Yeah, minor thing. All right, Roosevelt's New Deal.
That's the
What was
difference.
that?
That was
That's a
held
different
during the
unit.
Great Depression.
Yeah.
So what must it be?
See,
Now, let me caution you on the logic of that's a whole different unit. On the EOC, of course, it's all encompassing. Here's how I would have said it. Harrison, that's fine. Here's how I would have said it. Truman Doctrine is related to communism, and the list is not. Roosevelt's New Deal specifically would not have included civil rights laws, so that's the kill on that one. And then, or you could just recognize those are all related to Johnson's Great Society. So good job, good talk through. Next.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I can read it.
Well, hear me on this. Don't I always say that we shouldn't cringe at a long quote? Can't we draw some context from just reading who's it from and when it was written? Probably, skimming a couple of key words.
Oh.
Okay. We know it was by Eisenhower upon signing the National Defense Education Act September 2nd, 1958.
Which two factors most likely spurred the passing of the legislation mentioned above? Go Gage.
Yes, the ending World War II. The
Talk me through it. Do we like that one or are we killing that one?
Not really.
Why are we killing it?
Because I said 20 years in the back.
19, yeah, that's right. 1958 was the time frame for that.
All right.
Hey.
B, surprise no for Harvard.
Yes.
We're still ahead.
No.
Same story, wrong years, not even close.
Yeah, sure. C, the success of Sputnik into space.
Yes.
Why, Harrison?
That could be right.
It's something about
But
the
we're not
education.
going to do it yet.
Education, 50s, Sputnik. I like that one.
We'll hold on to that.
Okay. Now remember, we're choosing two.
Oh, yeah, D, the increase of consumerism in the United States.
No.
No, that don't even got nothing to do with it.
Mark that one.
Sure. The sale of books and articles criticizing lack of science.
No.
Some of you are like, science, haha, it says science and education.
Yeah.
Look at the question, most likely. That's the throwaway answer. All right, that's the chump answer. I don't like that they try to trick you, but you guys are smarter than the chump answers. That's not what it's going for. Read the next one.
The fear that public education was not successful as in other countries. Yes.
So what two do we decide on?
Or the best answer.
C
Best answer.
and F.
I mean, they're all right.
Best answers are C and F.
Yeah.
E is the trickster, okay? It says
Good
the
job,
word
Harrison.
science, but it's not the best answer. C and F.
All right.
Next
All
question.
right, last one. Come on, guys.
Pretty sure.
Y'all got this.
After communist rebels took power in Cuba in 1959, the U.S. government responded by taking which of the following two actions?
I like the emphasis.
Yeah.
Communists, Cuba, I'm thinking about Kennedy, I'm thinking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. All right, my brain's in the right place.
Invading Cuba to remove any communist-led government. Did we ever invade Cuba? All right, so you can mark that out.
The offering economic and military aid to a new government to protect them from European interference.
No.
Is this right? What y'all think about this?
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
European interference, we like the Europeans, and we didn't offer aid to the new communist
I'm
government.
not really feeling that.
I don't think we.
Okay, good. All right. installing nuclear missiles in Florida to protect the United States?
No.
No, but where did we install them?
Cuba.
Turkey.
That was.
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
the first one was
What is
Turkey.
your double review? Well done,
Turkey.
Manny.
Asking for volunteers for a militia to invade and occupy the island. What y'all think about that?
I don't
No?
know about that one.
We don't need a militia. It's not
I didn't think so either, but I
1776.
didn't.
Yeah. So instituting an economic embargo that prevented all U.S. trade with the island.
True.
True?
Yeah.
Okay.
Encouraging the Soviet Union to replace the communist leadership in
No.
Cuba.
Once they're communists, we don't really hope
No.
so. Yeah.
All right, so Jacqueline emphasized that this requires two choices. What are the two that we
A and
choose?
E.
A and
A and E.
D?
A and E.
Sure. E. Ooh.
I'm at E.
All right, let me elaborate. Early on, you guys killed the A. I will say that, I said it, although it wasn't a mega emphasis, there was the Bay of Pigs invasion prior to the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is a little bit of a more nuanced question because I think it implies that the United States invaded Cuba, which is not exactly what happened. We equipped rebels to invade Cuba on our behalf. I don't get to choose the questions on the EOC. I wouldn't have written this question. I don't think it's super fair. Doesn't matter. You don't get to gripe about unfair questions. You get to work through them. So let's say you killed the A in the first place. I'll let you do this because it's going to make my point here. You killed A in the first place, but you get to the end and you got to pick two actions. I don't exactly know what's going on in Harrison's brain, but I think he got to the end there. He's like, you know what? A didn't super sit well with me, but of the options, I guess it's got to be A and E. So apply the common sense. There may be a word that you're hanging on to that's tripping you up. Reframe the problem, rethink it a little bit. Maybe there's a nugget in your brain you can pull from, and then eliminate what you know to be dead wrong. Make your best choice. So good job. All right, this is packet 8 now, day 8. We're in the modern era. We're not going to be talking about Trump and Biden, so let's go ahead and finish it out.
I'm just gonna read it.
What do they want?
Anyways,
Equality.
When do they want it?
Now.
That's right. What is this related to?
Equality.
Equality.
Yeah, but make a connection here.
Equality.
The workplace.
What are you talking about?
The National Organization for Women is related to what previous women's movement?
Women's suffrage.
Women's right to vote. Yeah. So think of this as the next phase of women fighting for the rights that they deserve. Now, there's some controversy here because this often includes abortion rights, and if you come from a religious perspective, you're going to be against that. But equal rights for women, on the surface, that's a super important concept, except for people are going to take issue with the abortive rights. This is the next phase of women's rights. Now, I've seen questions written in this fashion. They will try to give you, the question will be leading you to National Organization for Women, but they will throw in an option that is about women getting the right to vote. Now is not for the right to vote. Now is for equality. Or flip it on the other side. The question may be about women getting the right to vote, but one of the options is related to the Equal Rights Amendment. You got to know the order. It's rights to vote, then equal rights, equality. Okay? So think about women's rights movement in 2 phases. Right to vote, followed by equality. Next.
Yes.
EPA, Environmental Protection Agency.
Why does it matter?
It was motivated by Rachel Carson's Silent Spring.
What is that?
I have no clue.
It's a book. It's a story. And in this story, what does she criticize? Pollution, and specifically pesticides. I don't think that would be a part of a question. But her story leads people to open their eyes and realize, hey, guess what? We've only got one world. We got one environment. If we spray chemicals all over it, we might not have it much longer. So Rachel Carson's Silent Spring is a starting point. I don't think a question would be about Rachel Carson. I do think a question could start with Rachel Carson's Silent Spring leads to what? So you got to make that association. Continue. Why is this let me ask this question. Why is this a federal entity? Why is EPA federal and nationwide?
A government organization.
Factories.
Yeah. All right, look at that factory. What is it emitting? Pollution into the what?
Air.
Yeah, okay, so if this happens in Massachusetts and there's a strong wind blowing towards New Hampshire, what does it now affect? Multiple states. This is why it's federalized. If Missouri says you can dump trash into the water, and then that water flows to Louisiana, who's it now affect?
The Louisiana.
Louisiana. This is why it is a federal issue. Previously, pollution was controlled at the state level. Oklahoma do what Oklahoma wants to do. Georgia do what Georgia want to do. Now, because we realize we all breathe the same air and eventually we all drink the same water, this has to be a federal pollution control program. So that's the EPA. That's the deeper take on it. It's not my favorite topic to teach because it's just kind of like blah, environmental boring, but that's why it matters. Continue.
Next. All right, Richard M. Nixon.
Ugly mug.
What did
You'll talk about all of those. Get to the next one.
Next
Yeah.
one. Diplomatic relations in China.
Ooh, China, they're bad. They're communists.
1972.
Why is he talking to them?
We're trying to make friends with them in case Soviets attack us.
Trying to remake friends and specifically to reopen what?
Trade money.
Trade. Trade. All those things with that made in China tag, guess what? They didn't come before 1972. Nixon reopens trade with China so that today you got all your things with the made in China tag on it. Good. Next. So
Watergate.
forget all the good he did. What's he remembered for?
Watergate.
Tell me about it.
Okay, President Nixon resigned the presidency over accusations of illegal activity, such as he was spying on his opponent and he was covering it up. So that's
Which is the worst of those two?
Cover it
Yeah,
up.
we may have tolerated the spying, oops, my bad, but the lying about it,
Leads
that we
to
can't have.
widespread mistrust of the government.
Okay, last one.
This becomes Nixon's legacy, like we restated earlier.
There you go.
So he quits.
Roll.
Ooh.
Gerald Ford.
Wow.
What is the one nugget that you may need to think about for him?
He pardoned Nixon from jail.
There it is. No. Nixon was not in jail. But
From
he
being in jail.
pardoned him from any investigation, potential charges. Go to the next slide. Were people for or against that? Why?
They
They're
were
against everything. One of them negative.
We believe that nobody is above the law. If you commit wrongdoing, you should be held accountable for it. But this kind of shows, if you know the right guy and can get a pardon, maybe you are above the law. But no, go back. What was Ford's reason for pardoning Nixon?
Hey, but rather than to drag it out, he didn't want to drag
Put
it
it in your
out.
own words. Yeah, he didn't want to drag it out. He called it the national nightmare. He said, let's just move past this, right? Let's get back to doing the work of the country. Nixon's in the past, and now we need to focus on the future. So that is the only nugget that you really need to know about him. Next.
Jimmy Carter. What state is he from?
What state is he from?
Woo! Good job, Georgia.
And where'd he go to college, Sanaa?
West Point.
No, the other
US
one.
Naval Academy.
Our one Naval Academy graduate
She
that's
said
worth highlighting.
All right, he had Camp David Accords in the Iranian conflict.
Tell me about Camp David.
1978, between Israel and Egypt, hosted by President Carter. Egypt agreed to recognize Israel as a nation. Significance: a Muslim country recognizing the homeland of the Jewish people.
Why is that notable?
Because they don't like each other.
That's exactly right.
Two different religions.
So next picture.
Look at him, he's
That's-
shaking hands.
That's right. So if
He
the
is
election,
shaking hands.
if re-election was held right now, how do we think Jimmy Carter would do?
No, that,
No, right here.
right.
If this was his re-election moment, he probably wins.
Yes.
But by me asking that question, you probably realize that do we have peace in the
Americans
Middle East?
win now.
Do
Do
we
we
have
have
peace
peace
in
in
the
the
Do we
Middle
have
East?
peace in the Middle East?
No, this is my spot.
Who is that? Who
No.
said no?
No, we don't.
No. The Iranian hostage.
We are taken.
Oh, who is that?
This man
Me.
right
Yeah,
here.
that is
The Shaw.
yeah. Whoever that is.
Oh, we let him in.
Shaw.
Why, in fact, did we let him in?
Okay.
Thought he was
For medical
Yeah,
treatment.
cancer. Yeah, cancer.
Oh.
and the best doctors in the world, America.
That's right.
So over 60 Americans are taken hostage inside the American embassy in Tehran.
The
And
capital
held
of
for
Iran.
and held for
Yes,
four
ma'am.
hundred and forty-four days.
This is the lowest point of Carter's presidency.
Yeah, too bad this is when the re-election happens.
And Carter imposed economic sanctions.
Ooh, wow, he's really trying real hard with those economic sanctions.
Yeah.
A failed rescue mission, that means it did not work.
Called Desert War.
I don't wonder anything.
Desert
So how is he seen by the country then, Carter?
A
Failure.
Yeah, you're either not doing much or you're a failure at what you did
That's a
try.
good enough and ineffective. That's what he saw at.
Yeah.
Crisis cost him his chance at re-election.
Couple of pictures here.
Look
So
at all
I,
these pictures.
I told you there's a movie about this situation. Remember what it's called?
Like 440.
No.
It's called Argo, and it is about a kind of a side part of the story where there's a small rescue involved, and it stars Ben Affleck as the main character. And it is on Amazon Prime right now, and I actually watched it just over the past 2 nights. Pretty good story, worth watching. So 444 days later, what day was that? There's another event that happens on this day. When
Was it 9/11?
the day that Ronald Reagan becomes president. So as the final screw you to Jimmy Carter, the Iranians hold on
That
to
looks like
that.
Mr. Swanson. Mr. Swanson came back home.
Yeah, it does. Top middle,
That does look like.
This is
time traveler. You got me.
It was
You got me.
Yeah, we got him.
That's all I care
We go
about.
back home.
That's funny.
All right, next.
David, what's your question?
economics.
Does your wife watch these weird movies with you?
Oh no, she goes to sleep.
Yes,
So you
I like to stay up past my bedtime and.
I stay up working on things with the TV on in the background, usually. Working
what I
on
do
things
at
for
work.
you all,
Wow.
or my world history minions. All right, Ronald Reagan, let's finish it.
Reaganomics, and it was the end of the Cold War.
The economics plan was focused on reducing government regulation, taxes, and
More money for the government.
It'll trickle down to the people and have benefits for everyone.
Yeah, and the economy would improve.
Yeah. Where more to
Reduce
go?
government spending, reduce taxes, and reduce regulations.
What's the key word?
Reduce.
Yeah, less government, right? Johnson says more government, programs. Reagan says less. Reduce.
Government.
What's the criticism?
Trickle down.
The criticism
Tax
is,
benefits.
The criticism is that,
I don't
well, no, the criticism is that the tax benefits are only for that top wine glass. We showed
So
you
the
another
poor,
picture
it's
where it
trickle down
didn't
on
actually
the
trickle down.
poor.
Yeah, so that's the criticism. Here's a comparison. I think this is a level 2 or 3 type question. If they were to bring in both of these philosophies and tell you to compare them, Johnson's programs require what?
Expansion.
More money. Reaganomics philosophy is what?
Reduce.
Less. Okay, so there's the opposites. Hey, you get to decide what you think is right. Vote Republican or vote Democrat, that's up to you. But this is a pretty good summary of the two parties. Democrats want more government, more programs. Republicans want you to keep your money, and they believe that's how the economy thrives. Up to you to decide how you think the economy should work. That is the difference. All right, round it out here.
Collapse of the Soviet Union, 1991.
Technically not during Reagan's presidency.
But he set the stage for it to happen.
Yes,
so
he
they
did.
give him credit because
That's right.
why not?
One of Reagan's biggest successes in international policy. He facilitated the opening of freedom and speech and press and other reforms in the USSR.
So he was a great change agent.
Mr. Gorbachev.
Yeah, what wall? What wall? That's right. That's right. Lasting legacy for Reagan. George H.W. Bush, unfortunately, he is really not mentioned very much in our standards. He is in president during the fall, or he's in office during the fall of the Berlin Wall. I'm surprised we don't have to talk about the Desert Storm War, but we don't, so we're just going to move on. Just go ahead.
Doesn't he say that?
Wow.
There he is.
What a guy.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, right.
Monica Lewinsky.
All right, tell me about Slick Willie.
He had an affair.
That's right. That's the only thing people remember, right? Forget balancing the budget and other good things he did. This is the takeaway.
He was.
Which is the actual crime. Okay, think what
Ooh,
think
and she
what
was
you want.
22?
Think what you want
Yeah,
about the
he's free.
sexual activity. His
Murder.
crime was lying under oath.
Yeah.
That's
And there
right.
was physical.
Anonymity affair
Lied about
He's-
the affair.
He says, I did not have sexual relations
Was
with
he
that
married?
woman, Miss Lewinsky, yeah, to Hillary at the time.
Oh,
This
Hillary.
is, hey, this is a day that I was not in class, okay, and I hope that you had looked at the slides. This is a very juicy topic, obviously. Here's the simplest simple of it. They had a sexual affair. There is evidence. However, he lied about it until he was flat out confronted with that evidence, at which point you cannot lie anymore. Well, it's either testimony or it's physical evidence, right? That's what evidence is. Continue.
Next.
This leads to,
In his impeachment, so he was the second president in history to be impeached because of Monica Lewinsky and obstruction of justice and perjury, and that's lying.
he was impeached, but not what?
Removed.
That's right.
Removed from He left.
So in the end, he
Wait, no,
finishes,
he didn't.
no, he finishes out his 8 years. He's a two-term president. I would argue that he has recovered from the scandal because he's still involved in the world today. That is her. There is a fantastic 10-part, hey, hear me on this, we're almost done. There's a fantastic 10-part miniseries on FX called Impeachment. It is a dramatization, but it is very historically accurate and it's very juicy. So if you're interested in history, Impeachment on FX, very good 10 episodes. All right, 2 more presidents.
George.
3 minutes.
All right.
All right, that's what he did. Let's go through each one of them.
September 11th, that's when the planes hit the Twin Towers.
Yeah, on and on and on about September 11th. We're not going to rehash that. I
So
hope you know what it is.
he makes the Bush doctrine that U.S. will actively fight terrorism throughout the world.
And we'll go to them, not wait for
That's right. Preemptive. Pre means before. We're going to go to them first. This leads to,
The global war on terrorism.
it is very hard to fight a war on an ideal.
I was so
We can
alive.
declare war on Germany. We can declare war on Japan. We can fight soldiers who are in other uniforms. But it is very hard to fight an idea like terrorism. So, we go to war in 2 separate countries. What's this one?
Afghanistan.
Okay, why do we go to war in Afghanistan?
That man right there.
Because of Osama
bin Laden.
Yeah, do we go to war with Afghanistan?
No, we
Just
don't.
the
We
terror.
go to war in Afghanistan. That's right. That's notable. Okay, so we're not fighting Afghanistan, the country. We're fighting the terrorists inside of it.
Yes.
Why Iraq? Why do we go to Iraq?
Because they were the operation.
Harboring weapons.
They had Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I've ever said this very well in this class. Of course, I always get better with my classes. Why do we actually go fight in Iraq? Because we believe Saddam Hussein was harboring weapons of mass destruction, or we actually come to the acronym WMDs. Long story short, for the war in Iraq, we never find these WMDs, chemical munitions or
But
nuclear
he
weapons.
was-
We never find them. But nonetheless, go back. Nonetheless, Saddam Hussein is definitely guilty of crimes against humanity. He is captured, tried, and executed, not by the Americans, but by his own country. So it's kind of giving the country back to Iraq. They are starting to run their own country. And of course, that war drags on for 17 more years, but that is why we went to go fight in Iraq. From all of this comes what?
The Department of Homeland Security is a new cabinet position created to coordinate the efforts of many different agencies seeking to protect the American people, help the sharing of information between the 3-letter agencies, and more.
We talked a lot about a cabinet, right? George Washington's cabinet. This is adding to the cabinet, DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Next slide. Consider it an umbrella. Next slide. All those agencies that used to not talk to each other, now they are under the same umbrella and they fit into Department of Homeland Security. This guy, tell me why it matters.
Barack Obama, he was the first person of color to be elected president. He wanted hope and change, and he made Obama.
Yeah, so I would say bottom line is the first president of color to be elected. All right, that is the notable significance of Barack Obama in the presidency. And final thought here is, I'm not going to read the whole slide. I'm not going to make them read the whole slide. I want you to know, I want you to follow in your brain the progression of technology. Telegraph, telephone, radio, television, internet, social media. At every step, we increase our connectivity. At every step, we increase how we share messages locally or around the world. So just have that big idea. Obama is out. Let's go ahead and get the answers to these questions because I want you to have them. Just click it twice. Just click it twice. Make sure that those are your answers. They're not going to be talking through them. Those are old. Those are old. Those are irrelevant. Go back to the circle questions. All right. Hey, good job. Especially good job on the roulette. Those of y'all that stepped up and got them out, I appreciate it. Tomorrow we'll talk all the movies. Last round, I'll tell you what hour. I'll make sure you know. Tonight, hey, this is simmer. Simmer down now. Tonight, I would read your stuff one more time. Not cramming, not in a cramming fashion, but glance over this stuff till you're bored. Because when you're bored, you got it. All right, I believe that. When you're bored with the information, that means you got it. But stay sharp. Stay sharp. It's all right here. Okay, Thursday, you get to dump it on the paper, and I will not be done with it, because guess what? The rest of your life starts at that point. The rest of your interaction with American history starts at that point. If you got questions, I'll hear it. Otherwise, you can go to lunch.
Come here, please.
I got several hands. So.
Ooh, that. What's another one? Is there another one after that? Swanson. Swanson.
I don't know if that mortician video has curse words in it.
All right, hey. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, Swanson.
Swanson? I don't know how many times I've called your name, but I need you. Hi. Oh my God, I forgot that was still going.
What's your question, Haven?
I need to look at these.
What?
Dude, I gotta go to lunch too. Look at this. Got it done, okay?
Apparently we went to lunch too early.
Look, I got day 7 and day 8 done. Write it down, please.